How is everybody doing? Just got done doing some homework, put the kids to bed, everybody sleep, and I thought I would come back here and do just talk, man. Just rant a little bit and just talk about some stuff. How about that? So anybody come back and watch this, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Make sure to watch the Thinking Game podcast where we will be on tomorrow, matter of fact. And let us know in the comments anything you'd like to hear us talk about. We thank you for all the support, everybody who's been watching. We ask you to hit the like button, go to our YouTube channel at CTMTV LR, and hit the subscribe button. Help us grow, help us monetize, because if we get monetized by YouTube, we can invest back into the channel and make more content. So with that being said, talk about this today. Growing as a man, 42. Um, kind of how I look at things may not be the most popular, but I would tell any young person this. Sometimes you think it's supposed to be a certain way and you find out it's not. Sometimes you think the world is a certain way and then you find out it's not. You just realize you just lived in a bubble sometimes. But growing as a man, this is my rant for tonight. Couple of topics. I even got them in the description. I try to go in order. If I go around it or go some other way, I may. Who knows? So, trying to learn who you are, growing as a man, trying to learn who you are is one of the toughest things, especially if you don't have people around that kind of give you things to think about. You kind of got to go through trial and error on your own. Like, what are you good at? What makes you tick? What makes you talk? What you like? What you don't like? How do you process information? How do you process your temperament? Do you get angry real fast? Do you fly off the lid? All these things you have to learn about yourself when you're growing up. How do you handle race relations when you come into a situation where it feel like it's racist? How do you handle that? Learning not to crash out, even though you may have the right to, but is it beneficial for you to crash out? These things you have to think about as you're growing as a man, dealing with other men that's growing as men as well. Uh, Perception. How do you deal with perception? Does that affect your decision making as a man? There are some people, not all, but there are some people, a percentage of people, say about 30, 40%, they make decisions based on what other people think. And what I would say is good to hear feedback, but it shouldn't be your final answer. As growing as a man, it shouldn't be your final answer. You should do the research, see what's out there, see what's available, get some feedback, maybe do another round of research, and then make a solid decision based on what you know and your instincts. Second one is choosing a path or just freestyling. I'm guilty of this. Instead of choosing a path, making a strategy, I freestyled it. Instead of going to school or doing something after high school, I just worked, just figured it out. So my tradition in education, it would be called non-traditional. And I didn't go to college right after high school. As a matter of fact, I didn't even take the ACT or the SAT, and I would not recommend that. I would recommend that you take the ACT or the SAT. And why is because it cuts down the time that you actually have to spend in college. Conventional wisdom college is supposed to be 4 years. But if you don't take the ACT or the SAT, you can add on to that because you would have to take developmental courses because you didn't score high enough or you don't have a score at all. So you have to start at a developmental level till you get up to the main courses. And that cuts time. You may be adding another 2 years onto that four before you even get to the regular classes. So it's just something to think about. Another thing, choosing the path of freestyling is when you don't make a plan. I've heard a lot of teachers tell me this when I was younger. Before I went to school for IT, I went to school for like auto body and collision. Jacob Stanley, shout out to Jacob Stanley, man. He would always say either you make a plan or you're gonna be somebody else's plan. That is a real deal statement. Make a plan or be somebody else's plan. Write it down, look at it on paper. It's easy to talk about stuff in your head and just blur stuff out. But I would tell any young person, write it down. Look at the time commitment. Look at what it's going to take for you to get it done. As a matter of fact, anybody come back and listen to this, any young person, I'm willing to. You can come on StreamYard. We can sit down. We can make a plan together and talk about how to execute that plan. Growing as a man, one of the hardest things to learn is how to start something and finish it, or finish what you start. How about that? Finish what you start. And if you can't start it, if you can't finish it, don't start it. Now, if you know you can't finish it, don't start it, you're going to be saying no to stuff because I know that if I commit to that, I'm not going to be able to finish it. And some people may not like that. But your reputation and your word is everything when you're growing as a man. Everything. Before you even get to money, you got a reputation. Something to think about. What stability looks like to me, I would advise any young man once you graduate high school. Things that happen, and that could be crazy, but when you start growing as an adult male, everything that happened in the past is in the past. You got your own plate that you have to, before you get to the family, before you even get to that, you have to find your way as a man. What are you going to do? What's going to be your routine? What are you good at? What's what's your work routine? First thing you have to do is learn how to generate income, generate resources. The first thing you have to learn how to do. Second thing, after you learn how to generate, you got to learn how to get yourself in position to where it's a maintained generation of resources or income. How do you do that? By educating yourself either in academics or through trade or through vocation, some kind of post education, not just working for a company. You have to find a way to put yourself in position. Stability looks like when you can completely live on your own and not have to borrow money from anybody. That's when you are stable. Literally, you're living on what you bring in. Literally, you're living on what you're bringing in. We all fall on hard times as adults. I get it. But when you 90% of the time can live on what you bring in, that's what you want to shoot for, that 90%, 95%. That means that you're not going to overspend. That means that you're not going to live beyond your means. That means that you're going to really work to get yourself in a position to be stable And then when you get stable, now you can start reaching and doing other things. Now you're balanced. Now you can do multi things, multi streams of income, but you got to get to a point of stability first as a man when you're growing as a man. Why post education in the career field that is marketable in your area? Why do you think that post education in the career field is marketable? You have to find something that works in the area that you live. As a man, you got to find something. You got to master something. That's the goal. You might have to work 9 to 5. You might have to work. I know when I first started working, I worked a lot of 2 to 11 shifts or 4 to 10. Then as I got out of high school, I started getting to those 9 to 5s or 7 to 4 daytime positions. But one thing I would say is if you don't go to college right out of high school, really look into some kind of way to elevate yourself while you're working full time because you have a lot of free time when you get out of high school. And if you just get stuck in working, a lot of times it's easy to do. I know I did it. You work, you play. You work, you play. Work, and you play. All of that playtime, you don't get it back. I'm talking to it as a man. At playtime, you don't get it back. When you invest your time into development, not only do you get that time back, and you also it comes back with resources as well. What do I mean by that? When I was younger, I went to the club, I did all of this stuff. Guess what? That time is gone, it's past. It ain't nothing but memories. I probably don't even talk about it if I even remember it. But when you developing something, when I went to school for auto body and collision, time invested. Went to school for IT, time invested. Went to school for web development, time invested. Now going to school for for the MBA, invest in time as well. What I can tell you is the more education I got, the more the jobs became specialized and not as stressful as working regular jobs. I'm talking about when you get into a career. I am blessed, I am fortunate to have a job where it's just about minimal stress at best. I was just taking my kids to Walmart this evening, and I remember back then the toy section with them, and I heard a come across the intercom. We need all male associates to the back. There's a truck in the loading dock. I remember that because I worked at Walmart before. And you had to, all males had to go back and help them unload the truck. The guys that was forgot what they call them, maybe the loading dock guys, the stock guys, who knows, but they need all men on deck and it sucked. And what I will say is those kind of jobs motivated me to grow and get better as a man. When I was younger, I used to be like, man, if I could just get an easy job, I'd be great. But easy jobs don't pay that much. And I know a lot of guys they get emotional when you start talking about college and stuff, but I'm telling you, One of the best things I ever did was go back to school. By far, one of the best things I ever did was go back to school. And that goes right into my next question or next topic. Lack of knowledge. The lack of knowledge about something due to lack of exposure. It is my opinion that I see with my own two eyes that in our community, we lack the pre knowledge to know how to make great choices about career, what we want to do, and what we can obtain. Say it again. I seen with my own two eyes. I even experienced it that we lack the knowledge due to lack of exposure to make good choices, good decisions on what career paths that are available and have the options available and choices of that nature. When I say lack of exposure, I mean like people that work in some of these positions or a lack of a network therefore like me growing up in Southwest, I'm not a part of a fraternity. I'm not a part of any kind of group, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not a part of it, it's nothing that you can take advantage of at that level. Sometimes having a network is great. Sometimes it's not. It's pros and cons to everything. You have to weigh out your options and understand, do I want to be a part of this? Do I want to be a part of that? Or do I just want to be not tied down, just be free? Me, I was more like I like being free. I don't like being tied down if I don't have to be. And unfortunately, I haven't had to be. Now, with that being said, if you don't roll or click up with people or be in a network, it makes you have to be that much better individually because you don't have other people to kind of refer to or lean on or reference off of. So you have to be at the mentality to go out there and get it mentality. I eat what I kill kind of mentality because you don't have another person to call on to get you in that door. You got to get in that door with your own skill and merit. So my next one, this happens a lot in the inner city or in the trenches, whatever you want to call it. Lack, no, negative surroundings drowning out kids' ambition. When you live in the trenches, you live in the inner city. A lot of times it's nothing in there that fuels your ambition. There is no new stores. There is no new businesses coming in the trenches. It's the same old stuff. Same old gas station, same old convenience store, same old gas stations. Maybe a funeral home, maybe a liquor store, but nothing fresh and innovative coming to the trenches. So how can we expect kids to be ambitious if there's nothing there to help drive or fuel that ambition? You almost have to leave where you live and go see things to drive your ambition. Or there are some kids that naturally they are driven and ambitious, but it's not the majority of the kids. It's a small percentage, but it's not the majority. So my next one is, how driven do you have to be now? I would tell any young person, you have to be so driven right now. In 2025, going into 2026, you have to be driven like no other because opportunities are not going to be given to you. You have to be in position, you have to be prepared, you have to have a lot of things work in your favor. But I promise you, you got to be committed, you got to be driven, you got to be reliable, all those things. You have to be driven past how you feel. You have to be driven past of what seems like is going on. You have to find a way to overcome all the things that you don't like. I'm just talking from experience. A lot of situations I've been the only guy of color, only black guy there. But I'm so driven that it don't bother me because I'm driven and I'm going somewhere. And sometimes when you're going somewhere, there are stops or things you have to do along the way that may not feel good, but when you're driven, it don't matter. Character is built through pain and being uncomfortable. If you can endure that, stay driven, you will make some good choices and good decisions. You'll really grow as a man. In my opinion, you'll grow as a man. Being able to accept the ground noise while you're climbing. One thing I've learned is when you're climbing, everybody's not going to like that. Everybody's going to view that different. Everybody's going to have something to say. But you have to know how you got there, the things you had to do to prepare to get there to make that climb. And some people, it challenges their insecurity because they don't want to climb. You learn real quick that everybody is capable of doing something, whether they want to admit it or not, it's up to them. But everybody's capable of something great. It's up to them to explore that. It's up to them to get to that. It's up to them to make it happen. Things happen, sure. But when you try to make good decisions, you try to avoid the things that happen. There are some natural things that happen, but they don't happen at a higher rate than bad decisions. A bad decision can set you back so far. That's why I stress making good decisions. And if you don't know if it's a good decision, ask somebody or just don't do it. Don't allow people on the ground to distract you from climbing to where you're trying to go. Don't allow people on the ground to discourage you to stop climbing because they don't want to climb or for whatever reason. We have to be more driven. I'm trying to tell my young bulls this. You got to be more driven. You have to want to be better. And if you find somebody that you can relate to, reach out to that person, ask them for insight. Sometimes it's not about the money. The best thing somebody can give you is insight that can help you get to the next level. Because if a person keeps giving you something and never let you learn, you will always be dependent on that person. But when you get the mentality to know how to get it, how to kill what you eat, that's a different kind of mentality. And you're not dependent on somebody. You know how to go out there and get it. So I'm about at the end of this rant. This is just a few things growing as a man. There's way more things. I mean, I'd be on here for hours talking about it. But growing as a man, it's one of the toughest things as a young man because there's no one path to take. What I can say is learn about your spiritual self as early as you can. Get that spiritual foundation set. It will set the tone for everything else. If you don't learn the spiritual foundation, You're gonna go off your own intellect. It's limited at best. I'm telling you from experience. I didn't start off when my mom got married and moved. I went on my own path. I didn't want to go back to church. And I'm telling you that when you go prodigal, when you leave the Father and go prodigal, it's not as fun. It may start out as fun, but it's not as fun as you think when you out there prodigal. And I'm telling you, learn, stay with the Father, get that spiritual base. Everything else will come, and it'll all make sense. It'll all come together. Because when you don't have that spiritual base, it'll always seem like you getting ahead, and then something to knock you back down. And I can tell you from experience that I wouldn't be where I am today without the insight and wisdom of God. Bottom line, period. I wouldn't have met the people that I met. I wouldn't have my wife. I wouldn't have my kids. Who knows where I'd be? But I am here through the blessings of God and His favor, grace, and mercy. That's it. But growing as a man. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank everybody who come back and watch this. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Thinking Game Podcast tomorrow. The mic Rant, growing as a man, and I will catch you on the next one.